Jeremy Miner has one of the most analytical selling styles in the business world. But does it actually connect with people, or does it hold you back? I first found out about him about 2 years ago when I first got into sales. And what I saw was someone who was like very in his head all the time. And so my background, I'm coming from a cold approach background. They taught me that being analytical is bad because you don't come across as confident and as fluent. And so this is the first thing I noticed about him. And I was like, well, how is this guy like one of the most popular sales gurus on YouTube? It doesn't make sense to me. But then actually, when you think more about it, being analytical, it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? The better understanding you have of how you can actually convert people, how people actually think. If you think about that deeply, you're going to get a better understanding of that. The problem is with analytical people that they're usually thinking about it all the time and they can't be as natural with people. So this is something that I see in him as well, and I would say like this is something that potentially holds him back. But on the other hand, there's also like a lot of strengths to the way he sells, because he has that very good understanding, because he is more strategical, he is more analytical. So it actually works as a benefit for him because he can really understand the needs of people and the needs of prospects, and he found ways to communicate with that. If you are someone who is more logical, more analytical, that doesn't mean that you can't communicate with people, all right? It just means that sometimes maybe it's going to be a little bit blocky, maybe sometimes awkward, but if you find methods for yourself to actually convey yourself to someone, as opposed to someone who is more natural, might not think about it as deeply and just feel how he can connect with people, right? So people who are not as analytical usually just feel things out more and they have a better intuitive grasp of things. So with people like Jeremy Miner, that's not the case, or like his intuition just comes because he thought about it that much and he practiced it that much. But his power is in his understanding, first of all, but then also in the way he communicates that understanding and the way he actually interacts with the prospects in order to sell him or convince him of the prospect or show the benefits, or to actually dive into his life and see where the product applies for him. Discovery is like his biggest strength, and I would say if you are serious about sales, and with serious about sales, I mean, you want to do like sales in like business settings, B2B, or like you have like really ambition as an entrepreneur. I'm not necessarily talking about car sales, not that there is anything wrong with that, but I'm talking about like, if you really have ambition to be the highest level of sales, usually that's a little bit more B2B. And usually what you need there is more of a deep dive into the motivations behind why people need your service. And that's one of the strengths of Jeremy Miner, is that he is very therapeutic almost in how he connects with his prospects, because the entire world like has a lot of resistance to salespeople, right? Most people still think of salespeople as people who use sleazy tactics, who are just going to try to push you into something, and to an extent they're not wrong, right? Like there's a lot of salespeople out there that make these mistakes, either just because they don't understand it, or because they're not experienced, or maybe because they took a wrong turn in their personality. The trick though, the difficulty is, even if you have good intentions in sales, there's going to be a lot of people that are just very skeptical of what you do. They're not going to trust you because sales usually doesn't have a good image for most people. And that's where Jeremy Miner is really strong, because he can overcome a lot of like buyer resistance, because he can really like disarm his prospects. Like when they show up to his meeting, he can really make them feel calm. And instead of like trying to convince them why they would need this product, he actually works backwards, and like he would actually like ask the question like, why do you need this? Like he would dive into the motivations of potentially why this could be useful for the prospect. So he's just working with them in order to see where their motivations are, where they are in life. So, and then he questions like, wouldn't the situation you are in, would that be a good fit for our product, right? And then he goes into the benefits of that, and he interacts and he asks questions to the prospect to make him see and question why this would be valuable for him. So he asks like a lot of questions instead of just trying to push. And this is a very powerful approach if you want to do like more higher end sales, because you can really convince people a lot more that way. You know, people will be convinced a lot more that way because you pull them in. You're not pressuring them, you're just figuring out with them, and you have the best intentions and you have the best ethics, and you're just figuring out with them, hey, what's going on in your life right now? What's going on in your business right now? What's going on in your career right now? Why are you interested in this product, right? Because people who come to salespeople, typically speaking, they already went through a marketing process, right? So typically speaking, they're already leads that have show that they have some kind of interest in the service or the product, right? So the job then is to not screw it up and just listen to why they're there, why they're here with you, right? Most of the time they want more information, they have interested, but they're not sure, is it going to work out? Maybe they have some bad experiences, maybe they're not sure about the price. We are there for them, especially in bigger selling situations, because that's when you're going to need salespeople. It's when you have a higher value or higher price product. Typically people want to speak with someone that represents the service or the product so that they can feel for sure, this is something I want to do. Most people are not gonna hand over 5 or 10K in cash unless they really feel certain that they want to do something. And usually that means they want to speak to a person that represents it. So I think Jeremy Miner is genius. I think he is definitely one of the best salespeople out there. I would also say he definitely does have some cons. So the negatives that apply to analytical people does apply to him. He is sometimes in his head. He does sometimes have trouble naturally connecting. You can see the way he interacts. It's not always as natural. It works, but it's not always as natural. So, you know, it sometimes feels a bit awkward, and then people will, you know, feel that. But he can still convince them because he knows how to. He taught himself how to do that. So I would say, like, if you want to do higher end sales, you should definitely learn from Jeremy Miner. He's probably one of the most important salespeople you can learn from. Keep in mind, you know, you probably want to be natural if you can, because that's always the best way. But if you can do a good discovery and you can like have deep insight into sales like Jeremy Miner, then you're off to a good start in sales, right? So let me know what you thought about the video. Did you think it was interesting? Did you learn something? Always like want to hear from you guys if you have any comments or ideas where I can take the channel or what you want to learn. And yeah, check out my next video and I'll see you guys around. Cheers.